Oh, hey.
Hello.
Hey, that could be a movie with Brent and Hilary.
Thanks for watching. Last week we pitched 2 movies about animals. Sparky was mine.
Tracy Goat was mine.
And Sparky won!
Sparky was the overwhelming favorite.
This week we have a new theme.
Indeed.
And the theme is...
Revenge.
It's my turn to go first.
It is your turn to go first.
Okay. I forgot to do a title. I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun to do a Count of Monte Cristo set in 1920s? La la la! It follows 3 friends. George, Margaret, and Frank.
Great 20s names.
Right?
Yes.
I looked that up.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're pre-1920s.
Okay, so like
start.
1910s.
Tens. We're in the tens. The teens.
Is that what they're called? I don't know.
We'll get there soon.
Yeah.
We are there.
Yeah.
George has had just a terrible life, but he's got one thing going for him. Margaret.
Okay.
His best friend Frank is the son of a U.S. senator. He's got everything going for him, but he's always jealous of George and Margaret. Then they go to World War I, where George finally has things going for him. He becomes a decorated war hero.
All right.
And Frank makes a deal with these Russian people that he will be a spy in America if they keep George in one of their terrible prisons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They were only at war for a few months, I should say that, just for baby
Are
purposes.
you just
making that
changing World War I?
No! He comes back, marries Margaret. And you're like, Margaret, how could you like the Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah.
George spends 13 years in prison. He gets strong because he's in Russia, and he becomes this burly, handsome, rugged, Russian, strong, skilled man.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that he saved in World War I ends up leaving him all his money. So he escapes from this prison and then has all his cash.
Right.
He goes to Chicago, which is where Margaret and Frank have settled.
Okay.
Living it up in the 20s.
In the 20s in Chicago.
20s Chicago. Whoop whoop.
Does he wear one of those like fedora hats?
Yeah.
A lot?
Yeah, smokes a cigar. Oh, and George comes back now with all of this money. 16 years later.
Right.
He takes everything away from Frank for taking everything away from him.
Right.
And he ends up falling for Margaret. They have a son named Al. You know what happens in the Count of Monte Cristo.
I do, in fact.
And then Frank kills himself. But yeah.
Let's come up with a title.
Yeah, Money's Monte Cristo.
Title of Hilary Miller Project.
Yeah.
What about the...
Fast Times, 1920.
All the good titles with jazz in them are taken.
No. You could title it their names.
George, Margaret, and Frank.
George, Margaret, and Faye. My turn!
Yes. Brent!
I have a title. Just because that's the only thing I have written down here. Family Tree. So, Tim. He's been a victim all of his life. Has been bullied. Everybody dumps their workload on him and comes in on the weekends to do work, etc.
Sounds familiar.
Tim's parents were killed in a drunk driving accident. A man who was driving the car died in prison for vehicular manslaughter.
Okay.
He is surfing the internet one day, and he sees an ad for one of those websites like Ancestry.com.
Oh, huh.
And he goes back through and he finds all of these stories about his family and how they've all been victims of crimes throughout history. What he does is he goes as far back as he can.
Okay.
And he starts finding the descendants of the people that committed these crimes, and he starts reenacting the crimes against them. Okay? So, Tabitha is an FBI agent.
Excellent name.
Who, thank you, came up with that in the shower. She's assigned to this case. She ends up realizing that they're reenactments of old crimes.
Mm-hmm.
She pieces together that this is a family thing. And so she can predict the next crime. He goes all the way down, and the last crime is the vehicular manslaughter. Tabitha's father was the driver.
Oh no!
So she is the last victim. And the climax is them facing off. And
you'd have to watch it.
you would have to watch it because I didn't come up with that part.
Wow. Well, if you prefer one movie over the other, and you have to, you don't have to. Just in the comments, the name. Our names are Family Tree.
Family Tree.
And Frank, George, Margaret. I think they were
George, Margaret, Frank.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
It wasn't great.
There's funny parts.
Okay, good.
We can hit some of those jokes.
Encouragement.